Hi friends, welcome to Shopping and Crafting on a Dime. My name's Gina. If you're new to this channel and you're interested in everything on a budget and DIYs, shopping hauls, all kinds of fun stuff, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell and select all. This way you're notified every time I upload a brand new video. Today we have 3 fabulous farmhouse DIYs for you, so stick around. Before we get to it, I want to show you my shirt. Crafting friends will be there for you. Isn't this shirt adorable? It's from the Stamp and Scrapbook Expo, and every year my Didi Norma and Nellie, we get together and we go to Orlando to the Scrapbook Expo, and it's really lots of fun. I'll add the link down below for the website if you're interested, and we just have a great time. All the girls get together and craft and shop, and it's a blast. Anyways, we didn't get to go this past year because of COVID, so my Didi Norma sent me shirts, and the shirts I'll be wearing on different videos, but they are so cute, and this is one of them. So hope you like it, and without further ado, let's get started and jump right in. So for DIY number 1, we're going to take 4 canvases from the Dollar Tree, and make sure they're the regular canvases, not the panels. And we're going to open them up and remove all the packaging from them, as I show you here. Then when we finish removing all the packaging, we're going to go through and we're going to take an X-Acto knife or something sharp like a craft knife, and we're going to take off the canvas part of it, removing all of the canvas from the back of it as well. It's not important to remove the staples really, because we're not going to be seeing the staples, because that's going to be the back of our projects. So this is just showing you how I do each one. It's easy to do it with a craft knife and pull off the canvas. Then once we do this, we don't need to remove the staples, like I said, because that's going to be the back. We're going to, normally we would sand this down, but we're not going to need to sand it down because the wood was pretty ready to be painted. So we're going to take our Waverly chalk paint in white, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to paint all sections of the frame. Make sure you get not just the frame itself, but the inside edge and the outside edge as well. And you could do this using any brush, whether you use these brushes that are from Walmart or a foam brush is fine as well. And the chalk paint is from Walmart. It's the Waverly chalk paint in white. And sorry, this is a little out of the frame, but you guys know how to paint, so just speeding it up to show you. And there's no need to paint the back because, like I said, we're going to have it up against the wall, so you're not going to be seeing the back. And I think I did 2 coats on each frame of the Waverly chalk paint. Now, if you're distressing it and you're using the antique wax or something like that, you might not want full coverage on the frame. You might want to just do a quick brush, 1 coat, since you're going to distress it. But I wanted to make sure that the frames were all covered really well, so I went ahead and did 2 coats. And we're just finishing up. Okay, now once those are dry and you let them go ahead and dry overnight or at least several hours, and we're going to take our chip brush and we're going to take Waverly chalk paint and ink, and we're going to dry brush the entire frame, the edges, the frame itself on the front, everywhere, all over the whole frame, just to give it that real distressed and antique look that we're going for farmhouse. And if you want, you can use the antique wax as well, or you could even use elephant or truffle. Those are just some good ones that are used for distressing. I wanted the black look to it a little bit, so it looked kind of old and dingy. So I went ahead and used the ink. Then we're going to take all 4 frames and we're just going to attach them with hot glue. If you want, you can use E6000 as well, but I went ahead and just did it with hot glue because there are such lightweight frames that I knew that nothing was going to break them apart really. And then we have all of our frames for our window pane assembled. Next, we're going to make our little wreath. I did have a wreath, but it was too big for the window pane, in my opinion. So I wanted to make a smaller wreath, and I didn't have a wreath form that small, so I just wanted to use what was on hand. So I went ahead and took this Dollar General bucket and traced on a piece of cardboard the circle, and then I went and cut it out. And then you're going to take the other side of the Dollar Tree bucket or whatever round object you have, and you're going to make the inner part of the ring. You're going to see here in just a minute. And so I go ahead and I use the opposite side of the bucket to trace the inner part of the ring. And it's easy to go ahead and cut that because all you're going to do is take your scissors and make a hole in the center and then cut it into 4 parts like you would a pizza pie. And you're going to go ahead and go around that and cut it out. And then while we're watching this, let me go ahead and tell you about the greenery. Those are boxwood floral, and I got those at Walmart. I believe they were 97 cents a bundle, which is great, and they look so realistic. So definitely, if you can't find floral at Dollar Tree, you can go ahead to Walmart and use what they have there. Everything looks really realistic, and the boxwood floral just really goes well with the farmhouse decor. So I go ahead and I take my finger protector, put it on my finger because I'm going to need to press down the boxwood as I'm gluing. And if you're anything like me, you burn yourself continuously with the glue gun, which is like exactly what I do over and over again. So I make sure I have those finger protectors from Dollar Tree, and they are worth every penny, and they really save your fingers. So I'm just going to go around going the same direction and gluing the stems of the boxwood in a circle around the whole part of the frame. And you can do it as full as you want or as bare as you want. I did it pretty full, so even at the end I stuffed one in there. And make sure you peel off your little glue strings, and that's how that came out. An easy and fast wreath. And we're not going to see the back of it, so it's not going to matter that it was done with cardboard. Okay, so for this, I go ahead and I take twine from the Dollar Tree, and I went and wrapped it around, tied a knot, and you'll see in the finished product, I decided against the twine afterwards, and I decided to use a buffalo check ribbon. So you just go ahead and whatever height you want it at on your window pane, you just go ahead and glue it in the back. Okay, so here we're on to DIY number 2. We're going to make a candle holder, or it can really be any kind of stand. And I'm just going through and showing you the supplies that I use. Everything except for the paint was Dollar Tree. So I use a glass candle holder for taper candles. And go ahead and remove all of those labels from that. And then I use that's E6000 that I just put down there. I go ahead and I use a candle plate and some of the rope from the Dollar Tree. And I go ahead and I use the same paints I used earlier, which was the Waverly chalk paint in white and ink. And you just want to make sure that you go ahead and you take off the edge of the rope there because it's wrapped up in tape and you don't want the tape on there. So you go ahead and glue it on and glue it around your candle plate. And I put the glue directly on the top. And you could use E6000 and hot glue, but I know it's going to stay pretty stationary and not move a whole lot, so I went ahead and just used hot glue. And there's that little finger protector again. Then you want to cut it and you want to make sure the ends meet. And then I go ahead and I take Waverly chalk paint in white and paint the whole plate, including the rope. And that's going to give us some texture, and it's going to give us like a textured look after it's all painted and all done. And I go ahead and I paint the candlestick holder as well. Now this glass kept showing through, so I did paint it about 3 times, 3 coats, and I went ahead and let the paint dry in between each coat. And when the paint was dry, in between I took my heat gun and I tried to speed up the drying process. Now you don't have to do this, you could just let it dry overnight or for a few hours, but I was trying to do it quickly, so I went ahead and dried it with my heat gun. Now when it's all dry, you're going to go in and take your chip brush, and we're going to dry brush with the ink, Waverly chalk paint and ink, and we're going to dry brush the entire thing before we glue it together. And you will see here It does go on pretty thick. I was a little heavy-handed with the distressing. So afterwards I go in with chalk paint and lighten it up a little bit. But then you're going to take your E6000 and hot glue, and the E6000 is going to give it that long hold, and the hot glue is going to give it that quick hold. And then I go back with my Waverly chalk paint in white, and I go ahead and I just go over it, dry brush it a little bit, and cover up some of the darkness because I didn't like that it was too dark. So I went ahead and lightened it up a little bit. And that's it for this one. Very easy. Very easy. Okay, so for DIY number 3, I go ahead and I use Waverly chalk paint in white, 3 Dollar Tree frames, a saying from Dollar Tree, some Hobby Lobby scrapbook paper, and 2 Dollar Tree wooden signs. And you want to make sure that they're long enough to fit all 3 of the frames on. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to take everything apart, and we cut the plastic off of our frames, which I had a little bit of difficulty at first. And then after we cut the plastic off, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go inside the frame to the back of it, and we're going to remove those little hangers and the little easel stand, since it's going to be laying flat up against our boards. And then you want to go ahead and you want to take out your inside pieces and the glass as well. And then we paint the frame in elephant. So you're going to paint the frame in elephant, and that's Waverly chalk paint. And the frame was nice and light, so I didn't have to do that many coats. I think I did 2 coats for this. But if the frame is dark, you may have to do more than 2 coats. It just depends on what frames you find at the Dollar Tree. These happen to be white with gold trim, so I kind of lucked out. And you want to make sure that you paint all of the sides of it on the outside as well as on the inside. Then we go ahead and we take our scrapbook paper that looks kind of like shiplap and like kind of wood grain. And you want to make sure each frame has the same direction, has the wood going in the same direction, the wood grain going in the same direction. So you'll see at the end what I mean. So you might need 2 sheets of scrapbook paper to do this. I did 3 on one, but then I realized it wasn't going the same direction. So I went ahead and I used my other scrapbook paper, the other sheet that I had, and you notice that they're all going the same direction. The wood is going across. Okay, then we start assembling our frames, and we take a putty knife, which is from Dollar Tree, and we go ahead and lift up the shamrock. Now we're not going to use this side of the frame because I just don't really like painting on the side that has the paper on it. But we're going to go ahead and sand it down anyways just so that it doesn't have that bulky kind of raised area. And we're gonna hang this, so we're not gonna see the back of it. So it doesn't really matter to cover the back, although you could at any point cover it with some brown craft paper. Then I go ahead and I start taking the tags off, and you want to cut the hangers off. Some of the frames come with the twine stapled in it, in which case you would remove the staples and remove the twine, and you wouldn't have any holes in the frame. But this one went through, so I have those 2 little holes at the top of each of the signs. So you're going to see in a minute, I go ahead and after I remove all the tags and the twine, I take my Dollar Tree spackle and I go ahead and I fill those holes with spackle, and you let that dry. And then we're going to go in and we're going to sand it down just so we don't have any, any little coarse bumps or anything like that when we're trying to paint. So I went in with my heat gun and I dried this a little bit just to speed up the process. And it dries pretty fast. And then we go ahead and take our sandpaper, which is from the Dollar Tree also. And we just sand it down just to make sure there's no, rough little bumps or anything like that when we're trying to put a coat of paint on it. And then we take our signs and we turn them over. And give it a good coat of Waverly chalk paint in white. Now, if you're distressing it for that farmhouse look, you don't have to necessarily give it a really good coat of paint. You could be a little lighter on the paint to let some of that wood show through. But I wasn't using antique wax. I was going in with elephant, and so I was distressing it with elephant, so I didn't want the wood showing through. I wanted the gray showing through. Then I went through with my chip brush and Waverly chalk paint in white, and I went ahead and I distressed the frames a little bit. I just didn't want a bright gray frame on the white background. So I wanted to have it look a little weathered and old. And you could be as heavy-handed as you want or as light-handed as you want. It's really your creation. Then I go ahead and I take the signs, and I flip them upside down. And the way I adhere them together, you can go ahead in with some wood glue and go ahead in the center and adhere them together. I went ahead and used large popsicle sticks, and I put a decent amount going down the back of it between both signs. And I just used hot glue to give it that good hold. And you'll see here that I use maybe 6 of them or more. And that's going to keep your sign together. And like I said, we're going to hang this, so we're not going to see the back. But you can always cover it with some craft paper if you wanted. And then we're going to take our chip brush and dry it off a little bit, and we're going to use the Waverly Elephant paint. And you can see I go along the edges and I go across the board because I really wanted to have that old weathered look and give it a really good distressing. Then I set that aside to dry. And then we're going to add our ribbon. So I use this from Dollar Tree, and it's that burlap and lace ribbon. And you go ahead and just turn your sign over, cut the length that you wish, your desired length for hanging. And the way I adhere the ribbon to the sign is using popsicle sticks, because it gives it that kind of strong hold with the hot glue. So you'll see here, and I'm sorry that it's a little bit out of frame, that I go ahead and I use the hot glue and put on the popsicle stick and then put the popsicle stick over the ribbon. And I do that for both sides. And then I go in with a little hot glue and I add a little hot glue to the bottom of the ribbon. Sorry that it's out of frame a little bit. And you want to make sure your ribbon is facing the right way so that when you stand it up, stand up your frame, you have the ribbon, the decorative part of the ribbon showing the hole at the top. You'll see what I mean in a minute. See at the top there? Okay, then we set that aside and it's time to assemble our frames. So we're going to take our frames, and once they've dried from the coats of paint and the distressing, we're going to take the scrapbook paper and we're going to put the scrapbook paper in. Actually, I think I skipped a step here. You have to put the glass in first. So we're going to put the glass in first. And if you need to, those little prongs that are on the back, you can just bend them out a little bit and it lets the glass fall in a little easier so that it doesn't break or chip or anything like that. And then we go ahead and we take our scrapbook paper and lay it down inside the frame, then add the back onto the frame and go ahead and push it down, and you see how it's going sideways, the grain of the wood. And that's what we do to all three frames. Then we take our stickers, and it's faith, hope, and love, and you just position it on top of the glass. It was a little longer than the frame itself, the little extension of the word, so I had to cut off a little piece or two, but you can't even tell. And then our frames are complete. Then I went ahead and I wanted to decide on spacing, and I just really kind of eyeballed it and gave enough space in between, and I went in with hot glue and put it all over the rim of the frame and the inside of the frame and glued it down really well. And that's it. Easy, beautiful farmhouse project.